consistently interesting as Team Solo Mids.
And I mean, speaking of the draft, we're going to jump right into this one. These teams are ready and chomping at the bit. Flash X and Best Chuck handling the draft duties for Team Solo Mid. And I think that's been the most interesting thing. It's not just Flash X anymore. You know, there's additional voices in the drafting phase at the very least for Team Solo Mid, and it has really shown. Like, we've always praised Flash X as being one of the best drafting minds, and their draft has stepped up even further now because you're getting that extra opinions from Best Chuck during the draft phase.
Yeah, and like it's interesting they're banning Adagio. That's very interesting. That's a good pick on A side, so Flash must have something planned. Koshka has banned Lyra. I feel like TSM is going to ban Ringo and force Cloud9 on Vox because Lyra lane works very well into Vox, so that might be something that they're trying to bait Cloud9 into, but who knows what Flash X has set up here. I mean, Cruel is also a very good pick that TSM is known for on A side that they may pick into Cloud9, but there is a Lance on the side of Cloud9, and Gaze Vizzo's Lance is no joke.
Yeah, and I'm also very surprised by the Lyra first pick from Team Solo Mid. They're one of the few teams that throughout the season has been more frequently than others, at the very least, letting the Lyra go through to their opponents, and even not taking a healer because the Adagio being banned type of situation. So the fact that they put priority on it is very different from what we've seen from them the previous 3 weeks.
Yeah, Cloud9 might ban Glaive because Von C's Glaive is so strong. Glaive or Petal here would make sense. If they ban Petal, they're going to open up Cruel or Glaive on A side here. So I would probably expect one of those bans because it really opens up a lot of options for other carries.
Cloud9 eating into their bonus time by quite a lot for their second ban here, trying to work out what thing that maybe pairs with Lyra they don't want to see. We've talked about a lot of things that pair really well with Lyra. I mean, you've seen Samuel. You've got the Petal that goes really well with
Glaive.
a Lyra. Glaive?
Yep, Glaive
certainly
is the ban.
works.
So TSM here, they probably will ban Petal, and then they're going to basically open up Cruel on their side. I think Von C can, with his mechanics, can easily play around a Lance. So let's see if they're going to be banning Petal here, or they'll be banning Ringo and forcing Cloud9 to take a Vox. So it might be a Ringo ban here, and then Cloud9 take Vox, and then they can lane the Lyra.
Yeah, we have seen a decent amount of lane Lyra really popping up towards the end of this update. Of course, we are on update 2.2 still for the tournament.
Final
there-
series of 2.2.
Yeah, this is the one, man.
This is the farewell tour.
And
What are we
there
gonna see?
is
Anything
the
interesting?
Petal ban. So TSM might be opting to run some Cruel, who knows, but Cruel is very tasty right now, so to speak.
Yeah, Kroll definitely a strong pick. It's something we've seen less of today, but we saw a ton of yesterday and also previous weeks. It has been a big hero on the 2.2 meta. Cloud9 could decide to go for it, but
they'll
Ringo,
take the Ringo as
first
expected.
pick.
So now they can't lane the Lyra. They might probably take Vox here, or run a BF and dive comp onto the Ringo. But then again, there's Lance. So I think they'll probably take it safe and run a Vox here.
Well, we'll see. Could also look for the
Jewel, okay. They're going to go with
right
Jewel
when
into
I
a
was
Lance.
about to say it.
Wow, okay.
I heard
And a
the
Samuel.
I know where you were going.
Yeah.
Actually, both of these heroes are ones that I think synergize incredibly well with the Lyra. You have that
Yeah.
bright bulwark to fight inside of, hard to get away from the Thunderstrike. Samuel with the sustain.
Kestrel's going to pop out here. I believe
Ton
they're
of
probably
zone
going to run
control.
a CP Kestrel because CP Kestrel is very good into Samuel. And it's more of a skill matchup. So these drafts are pretty even, but Lance into a Jewel, though. I mean, Jewel has to play very, very well here to outplay the Lance.
How is this Ringo going to be doing? Because certainly in lane against the Jewel in a vacuum, I think there's some competition there. When you've got a Lyra backing up your Jewel, being obnoxious and harassing you in lane, that's a bit of a different story.
Joseph
Right?
can also play Taka. I'm not sure if Joseph is comfortable on Kestrel, CP Kestrel. He may opt for Taka here because Taka is so slippery
We
and it's
saw
very
Taka
good
do so well
into
earlier
Samuel.
today.
Yeah, so there might be a Taka or CP Kestrel here. It's going to be one of those two picks unless they surprise me.
Cloud9, they have 19, 18, 17 seconds left in their bonus time. They've got to choose very quickly. It's an important pick as their last one of the game before we hop onto the Halcyon Fold here.
I would actually really like to see the Taka, but it's going to be a Catherine.
Okay.
Wow, okay. So are we going to see Joseph on Lance?
I hope so.
That'd be a very dark potato play.
I think they're going to CP the Lance because they want to weapon the Ringo. CP Ringo is not good into a support Lyra because Lyra can heal from the ult. and CP Ringo's weapon power is more damage per second is much more consistent. So definitely CP Cath on Joseph, but we've seen how this go before. This is going to be a little risky for Cloud9. However, their comp really counters TSM. I mean, Lyra is not a good front line. I mean, stun, root, stun by Lance, and Ringo just deletes whoever. They can delete Lyra if they want to. So this is going to be a very, very interesting matchup.
You know, I had been saying before, we haven't seen quite as many interesting or innovative comps from C9. This is definitely one of them. They've clearly prepped for this specific matchup.
Yeah, and I really like Catherine into a Samuel. You know, the Drifting Dark comes out, you just immediately throw on that bubble, start reflecting the damage when the Malice and Verdicts come out. That's going to be causing a lot of hurt onto TSM.
Or you stun him during the Drifting Dark, and the vast majority of that very long cooldown gets used up before you can even utilize it with your A. There's so many options here. So guys, predictions before we head into game number 1 of the finals.
If Cloud9 plays perfect and they focus their synergy with the stun lock combo, they can take this game.
I think Cloud9 have a better comp, but I hate Jungle Catherine, so I'm going TSM.
All right, let's see who can pull out the win here in game number 1 of our finals. It's our last finals of Split 1. We've got Team Solo Mid versus Cloud9. Josnick Scoundrel, take it away.
Thank you very much, guys. TSM Cloud9, finals of Split 1. This is definitely going to be a good and interesting best of 3 with Joseph. He's taking the Catherine, but he's taking it into the jungle. Something I like to see every now and then. But TSM already going on the very, very aggressive roam. There's Cloud9. They've just opted to actually just sit in the lane here and just not worry all too much with Old School, taking a little bit of that jungle away from Cloud9, or TSM rather, and TSM actually going to work their way up into the lane with Best Chuck and A on the duel. Does get rooted, and Joseph actually hasn't actually started with a stun, so won't be able to follow anything up there. Von C is going to be here, just going to jump onto Gabe Visit with a little bit of damage down. But other than that, that's going to be about it.
Yeah, it's actually a good return from Cloud9 to respond to that aggressive TSM move. Actually, Old School goes and gets those back camps himself. Actually leaves I Love Joseph in lane to get some farm down. So realistically, even Stevens across the board in terms of what was traded back and forth there, Jaws. Actually, just one healing camp in favor of Vonsi. He's going to continue his aggression, though. They've got super long range, lots of aggressive moves they can make onto this Catherine. And I Love Joseph actually is now going to be forced back once again. Won't be able to farm his back camps. This is TSM pulling out all the stops in their aggressive pressure on C9. Not going to be able to get that healing camp now. The double camps are under threat, but it's a good rotation from C9 here, George.
Oh man, Impale does miss. Flash X is there for the recovery, trying to escort Von C out of here. Best Chuck and A actually is going to leap over the entire lot of Cloud9 and say hello and say adieu to TSM as they do end up reconvening together, but that's going to be about it. I mean, that looks very good for Cloud9, but Flash X is hot on the sigils.
Yeah, and also really good reaction by Best Check NA. Didn't stand in lane, didn't try and shove the wave in, wasn't greedy, moved immediately to help his team. And like you said, it was a really good move by Flash X in the use of that sigil to get Von C out of danger. And now Von C has complete control. He's got his back camps up and ready. He's actually maybe looking to still go aggressive here. He's heading into the C9 jungle once more. Old School, or rather I Love Joseph, has had literally no time to farm right now. He's going to lose his back camps again. Von C there for the 3rd time round. He's going to pick up these back camps once more. Will get spotted out here, I think, by Gabe Vizzle. But Von C should walk away with them. Flash X there is already for the support, but Gabe Vizzle will pick up one. But again, dominant jungle here from Flash X and Von C. And it's something, Jaws, that you don't see too often. The roam or captain and jungle combo that was so popular last year kind of evolved into that captain sticking in lane meta. Now TSM making it work.
Yeah, they're doing a very, very fine job of it. Cloud9 are doing a very fine job of just collapsing on Von C here, but Best Chuck and A is going to be here as well. The stun onto I Love Joseph is going to be pretty big as Cloud9 are running. Their health bars are blinking, and Von C will come up with a kill. First blood goes over to TSM. Gabe Vizzle is going to have to get his happy feet on, going to have to run away as TSM just continue their chase. Those Thunder Strikes doing a lot of damage. But TSM, they come up with the kill.
Oh, this has just been such a display of how to pressure a weak jungler. Catherine just not so good, especially until she gets Stormguard banner, which she has now picked up now. But in those early levels, she is very, very weak in the jungle, has got a particularly low clear speed. And you can see I Love Joseph too afraid to even go to his backs because of Von C's aggression. Will now start to walk towards them. Von C is going to be at his own back. So for the first time, I Love Joseph should be able to pick up his back rotation, which I think is his 4th rotation. The first one that he gets to pick up, though. but TSM putting on display here, aggressively moving and putting pressure on C9's jungle, which is kind of the right thing to do against the Catherine. You want to try and punish her in that jungle position, and that's what TSM are doing.
And they're doing a very good job of it. And Von C, you mentioned, this is the first time Olive Joseph have got his backs, and you can just tell by the CS differential there. Von C's on 22, Olive Joseph only on 9. Single digits for him so far. Really, really putting pedals to the metal. TSM want to get ahead. They want to get ahead early, and they want to be able to carry this game out towards the mid-game.
And actually, that may sound like understated. You know, oh, he's like 15 CS ahead, or you know, whatever. That in the jungle is very hard to achieve. So that's a really good early lead there for Von C. And again, it's by FlashX's rotations. Best Chuck's reacting very quickly if things are going awry. He's really following old school out of the lane, and that's allowed TSM to be aggressive with very little reprise in the C9 jungle. And again, like I said, it's very rare to see the captain and jungle combo make those moves in the jungle. It's not something that happens too often in this current meta, but FlashX and Best Chuck and A have been very good at roaming together. Sorry, FlashX and Von C have been very good at roaming together in those aggressive maneuvers. Gotta say, TSM been impressive so far, changing up how they're approaching the game very, very quickly and on the fly.
Yeah, I have done indeed, and yet again, just disrupting Olive Joseph. Didn't even get that camp. Best Chuck and A is going to be able to secure it for him, taking away both front camps. Man, this is painful coming out of Joseph right now. This guy, you know, doesn't want to get let tilt set in, but that's very, very frustrating for him actually right now.
It doesn't feel like he can go for the Storm Crown because he's so far behind. He wants to have a more of an immediate impact. Looks like he's going towards his Aftershock early here. That's interesting. Just
nice GC chain coming in on Best Chuck and A. Let's be very, very careful. FlashX was there to kind of save him, but that's going to be I think it's going to be quite difficult for TSM to deal with, is this CC follow-up coming through from Cloud9 in the later portions of the game.
Oh, absolutely. And the CC chain from C9 is very strong, but they have to get to a position where that becomes relevant. Because you can CC chain, but if you don't have the damage to finish off that target that's getting locked down, it can be very difficult. Although, saying that, old school, getting a lot of good basic attacks onto Best Chuck there. He was turned away, so was taking more damage in that situation. But the siege from TSM is good. Whenever you have a Samuel, the siege is always going to be pretty decent because of that Drifting Dark and Malice and Verdict combo. And you can see how much damage has already been done to that tier 1 of the C9 team.
Very decisive team. TSM looking strong. FlashX does get rooted. It's not going to be too much of an issue though. It's Cloud9. Can't really follow up with anything apart from old school's damage. And that's kind of reminiscent of a couple of the builds we've seen, or a couple of the team compositions rather, that we've seen across EU and NA. As I interrupt myself, as old school does land out the Hellfire Brew, a lot of damage, a lot of CC onto Von C, but he's able to cut away perfectly here. Game Fizzle going really low. Big red button to chunk C9 out. And follow-up damage from Best Chuck and A as they just pile onto Von C is pretty stupendous.
And they're going to be able to get the turret off the back of this as well. Easy game, easy life. TSM doing what TSM does best. Dominant from the very start of this game. They have looked fantastic so far. They're going to get the gold mine as well because unfortunately C9 had to rotate back to base. And because of Lyra being on TSM's side, they've got that heal, got everyone back up, even post-fountain use. And put them in an incredibly good position to go and take that gold mine. So, right, this is just starving C9 from the early game, capitalizing on it, and at 7 minutes, TSM almost at a 4K gold advantage.
Yeah, absolutely ridiculous so far. TSM showing and proving that they're one of the best teams in the region so far. They are sitting on 20 points right now.
Understatement.
The best.
Yeah, they're literally the best team in the region, and I think they've been proving that for, you know, nigh on 4 to 5, 6 months now. It's been such a dominant half year for TSM, and they have no signs of letting up. This roster is fantastic, and honestly, they have been in control of the North American region for quite some time now. And even against C9, who looked so good today, TSM almost looked like they're playing with their food in some instances. They are just that good at this moment in time. I actually don't know who can stop TSM.
We'll have to wait and see, and that's where it's going to come up pretty big. Can Cloud9 do such a thing? Von C does get impaled, but Joseph's not going to be there for the follow-up. 20 CS, by the way, on Isle of Joseph, and Von C have been keeping an eye on it. Double the CS at this current time, and that's really, really something to kind of look forward. I mean, Von C's just done a fantastic job, and even Best Chuck's got 20 up on old school. Now, trying to look for something here, but FlashX is going to be the target, but that Drifting Dark is going to do a lot of work for Von C. Big red button's going to follow up with the damage. That turret is going to fall, and TSM just continuing their assault, and Olive Joseph's going to have to get out there quite sharpish as he almost ends up going down.
And one of the major issues for a Catherine is a Frostburn, and Vonsi's got it, and it makes it kiting that Catherine very easy, and the fact that Catherine's going to find it difficult to get through the Bright Bulwark makes it even harder too. So you can't imagine that Catherine's going to find her prey anytime soon unless it's in combination with Gabe Vizzle finding a good impale. Definitely feel like I Love Joseph is on a hero right now that is going to be struggling to have an impact. TSM seem to have things locked up in terms of the way that they are approaching this game. And this is kind of what you expect to see going into this type of composition. A composition that really has one idea. They've got great peel for Ringo, don't get me wrong. This is you can do that for C9. If you want to rely on Ringo to be your major damage output, you can peel for him with a Catherine and Lance very effectively. But if you want to be aggressive, all you can do essentially is run at the enemy. Because both Lance and Catherine, they kind of run at you. They don't really have instantaneous gap closers. And that's where Lyra and a Frostburn is very good at dealing with that particular type of engage. And that means it's going to be very difficult for Cloud9 to be proactive. They're going to have to be reactive this entire game. They're going to have to rely on old school on this Ringo to do the majority of the work while pretty much simply peeling for him. So that's what I'm expecting to see if Cloud9 are going to come out on top in this game.
Yeah, that's a massive if at the moment. Only one kill has been taken in this game. There's already a 6k gold advantage for TSM. Oh dear, Vonsi, he's picked up that Broken Myth with an infusion. FlashX has got one himself as well. Atlas Pauldron, Fountain, Crucible for FlashX. Best Jack and A, he's stacking up the damage nice and proper as well. My goodness, TSM, they are looking very strong, and they're going to just continue their march down this lane. With Cloud9, I mean, what are they going to be able to do coming into this apart from protect old school? Because you can see the poke damage from Von C is already way too much for him.
I mean, if they can land an impale onto Von C, they can combo that with I Love Joseph's Merciless Pursuit, then potentially, you know, they could actually find a decent team fight. But realistically, it's very difficult to do that because of how impactful this Malice Inverted with the Frostburn is going to be against by both I Love Joseph and Gabe Vizzle. And the fact that I Love Joseph has had literally no farm this entire game. It's still double over to Von C. And I can't overstate how much that means from a jungle role. That's a very big gold difference and CS difference in the jungle because of how much lower, in general, jungle CS tends to be compared to lane. So that's a serious advantage. This is almost similar to seeing Best Chuck and A have 108 and Old School have 50. So that's literally a massive, massive advantage going over to your
Oh, they want to find something. They're going to jump straight onto Old School. I Love Joseph help bars blinking as well. Passageway did get followed through. I Love Joseph trying to peel for Old School. They do manage to finally pick him up, and Old School falls as well. TSM, they do pick up 2 kills, making it their 3rd of the game. They're going to go towards the gold miner also. There's nothing that can stop them, and you saw the peel there, Scoundrel. You saw them try and get Old School away from Best Chuck and A, but it just did not work.
Yeah, I mean, I Love Joseph just isn't tanky enough. He's only got 4 stacks. Like, at 23 minutes into the 12 minutes into the game, he's got 4 stacks on his passive. I think that's 4 shielding and armor. It's really not very much. Like, at this point in the game, you can see how hard it's been for him to land any form of CC or even his silence at this point in time either. He's got no defensive itemization, relying entirely on his shield to provide that damage reduction that it can. And he's now picked up a tier 2 armor, but it's quite late into the game. You know, it's 12 minutes and it's only just picking up some defense. And with 4 stacks, this is going to be a very easy Catherine to deal with for TSM. It's been, I mean, they have punished this pick from C9. It's a pick that is risky. Catherine jungle works in certain circumstances, but it's very weak to a jungler that can look to punish early, especially a ranged jungler that can look to punish early, because obviously, you know, the range of Samuel, especially how aggressive he can be early on, makes it very difficult for Catherine to deal with him, because he can kite against that Merciless Pursuit. I mean, again, TSM knew exactly how to deal with it. All credit to them. Cloud9 have just kind of been bamboozled very early on here. And I don't know where they find their way back into this game, Jaws.
Yeah, I think bamboozles is the correct term to use at the moment, because Cloud9, yeah, not sure where they are going to find a way, if they're going to be able to. Maybe looking towards game number 2 and thinking, you know what, we're going to have to try and find something that will work against this Cloud9. How is our draft? How can it change up? Does it like Cloud9 are trying to maybe bait out TSM here? They work down towards their Crystal Sentry, but that's not going to be too much of an issue, because TSM, they're just going to march down the lane, still trying to look for something, but the recalls are coming through.
Yeah.
No, they're not. They're staying there.
TSM marching down the lane here. Actually, what is C9? C9?
Are you going to move, guys? Oh, there we go.
Maybe they were looking to bait around the Crystal Sentry. And as soon as they saw that TSM weren't taking the bait, they just went back to defend their turrets. But I think it's a play that you kind of have to make at this situation. You're like over 10k gold down with only 4 kills in the game. That's pretty substantial. So the play that you make is kind of like a desperation, let them walk into us play. And I think that's what C9 were going for.
Yeah, I mean, maybe, yeah, like you said, maybe they have to kind of make these plays, but unfortunately it did not work. Atlas Pauldron is going to be the pickup for Best Chuck and A. That is definitely going to put a hinder to a lot of Old School's damage. It's going to be quite the problem because this Catherine's got nothing. Gay Visual's got no damage on him really either. I mean, Aftershock has been finished from I Love Joseph, so he's definitely got that going for him, which is good. But TSM looking very, very strong. Hellfire Brew does come out, lands on Best Chuck and A, but I'm not sure how this fight's going to go. Blast Damage signs all of them. This might be their time, but no, Old School just gets deleted, and the rest of Cloud9 will fall shortly soon as well. Getting tongue-tied here as well as TSM just kind of rampage over Cloud9.
I mean, they're not even going to go for Kraken. They're going to walk down the lane and take the game. At 15 minutes, this is so quick for TSM. So quick for them. I mean, they just punished a very awkward jungle pick. They knew exactly how to deal with this Catherine. And honestly, completely trumped C9 at this point in time. And they just take the game so quickly.
A 15-minute game, almost 16 for TSM. One of the quickest games we've seen today, if I'm not mistaken. Absolutely fantastically well played and methodically. This is what we have come to expect from TSM, a very methodical playstyle, taking objective after objective, not so worried about the kill front, because what wins games in the end? Taking objectives rather than the kills.
Absolutely, Jaws. Incredible performance from TSM. Incredible performance, and they put pressure on the Catherine, has a weak early jungle. Von C knew exactly what he was doing. We saw the combo between FlashX and Von C, not something that you see too often right now, as you know, captains generally find themselves in lane, but FlashX and Von C grouped up, put pressure on C9, and they were rewarded for it.
They were indeed. We'll see what TSM and Cloud9 have to mix up for their draft next game. We'll jump straight over to the analyst desk, however, where they're going to break down the game even further.
Indeed we shall. Cloud9, what an interesting lineup they picked for themselves in Game 1 here. We were talking about it behind the scenes. Sweet J, I know you mentioned you actually really like this composition. You said Old School needed to get hyper-farmed. It didn't exactly happen.
Yeah, 2 things that they should have done. Hyper-farm Ringo, because there's some fights that Ringo could have deleted someone if he had more items, and you want to hyper-feed him to get to his item power spike sooner, so give all the backs to Old School. Joseph needs to counter jungle. Again, this is a macro strategy. Flash is winning this game because he's just better at the macro strategy than Cloud9, and he knew that this comp is weak early, put pressure on a jungle, and just choke them out, because late game, this comp will definitely beat their comp once Old School has his items and can start deleting people. So very well played by TSM, and I felt Cloud9 just lost track of what they needed to do from a big picture standpoint to not fall behind this badly.
And we never saw them get to the late game point, right? If you look at this replay, the one that ended the game for Cloud9, they weren't able to do enough in these fights.
Yeah, this is an example here. Old School is so close to killing Jewel. Imagine if he had like a monocle or something on top of his item. Jewel would have died here, and the fight may have went in their favor, potentially. So, and that's really all that's left to say.
Yeah, it didn't quite work out for them, but maybe next game they can figure out a way of doing it. Bacon, I was particularly intrigued by the fact that they went for this Jewel pick on Best Chuck. He's been playing a lot of very like ranged, high damage dealing things. He even played a Crystal Ringo. Jewel was an interesting pickup for him.
I don't know. It's weird because like I said, or started to say, you know, I feel like it would be a Jewel, like, and I don't know why. It's really weird. Like, it was just this weird gut feeling I had of like a Jewel would really work here, and they picked it, made it happen. My big question is, how many times does Jungle Catherine have to lose before teams stop trying to run it? That's...
Bacon is a new Sujay, man. He's been awesome on these draft predictions.
Yeah. I gotta admit, Bacon, your draft predictions have been pretty good. Let's see you throw down in a 1 versus 1 against Sweet J, though. That's where the real deal will happen. Cloud9 versus Team Solo Mid. Game number 2. Cloud9 now on the A side. They need to win this one, or they are done for the week and for the split.
Yeah, they're going to probably ban Adagio here with Koshka ban, and then Cloud9 will probably take Lance over Lyra, I believe, and give TSM Lyra. we'll see how the ban. Oh, they banned land, so they don't want to give Cloud9 that land. So I believe Cloud9 will take the Lyra here.
Yeah, well, this means the Adagio is available for TSM. We know both Flash and Best Chuck can play this very at a very high level.
Yeah, and Adagio is stronger than Lyra, I believe, because he's just such a strong laner. There's so many options to play with him. I don't think TSM will ban Fortress or Flicker because they want that. They'll probably ban something that's really good into Adagio, like Glaive potentially. Taka is actually counters Adagio pretty well because of the Invisible Atlas and etc. So let's see what TSM is going to ban here.
I actually wouldn't mind seeing TSM go for the Fortress ban. If Cloud9 then, they have to make the decision, do you ban Glaive or Flicker? TSM gets the other one.
Yeah, good point.
And both of those are really potent right now. Flicker, I mean, we never see him nowadays. Not because he's invisible, which he is frequently, but because of the fact that he's just banned all the time.
In North America, at least, yeah.
And keep in mind that C9 can play Jewel, so TSM might even ban Jewel, honestly, because Jewel is really good into Adagio.
Ooh, that's surprising.
So Vox is banned here.
I mean, Cloud9 at this point could ban a lot of things, but most of them allow for Team Solo Mid to get one really potent one. Like Ringo, Flicker could go through. It's kind of a scary spot for Cloud9. How do you even pick here?
Yeah, I think just give Cloud9 the Ringo so that you can play like a Black Feather Petal combo into it. I would ban something that counters Petal, like potentially like CP Kestrel or something that Von C is known for, or just take out the Glaive because you don't want. Oh, they want to ban Ringo. Okay, so they want to just take Ringo off the map here. So they basically are letting TSM lane the Adagio here. So let's see what TSM decides.
I just think the Flicker is such a good pick in this situation.
Yeah, Flicker, Black Feather, Flicker, Rona.
Flicker
anything. Rona will be very dangerous because Flicker has a AoE Shiver, and if Rona's ulting on top of that, it's pretty much lights out.
That being said, if Team Solomid does pick up Flicker, maybe a Gwen could be an option for the side of Cloud9. And then if they pick up something quite strong out of the jungle, okay.
Oh, Petal, okay. Petal is good because Flicker wouldn't be good into Petal because Petal can just jump out and get out of the AoE slow.
Team Solomid can always pick Flicker last if that is the case.
That's true as well, but they have to weapon the Adagio, which would work actually. You can weapon Adagio.
Oh, interesting.
So.
Or you could weapon the Petal. Run that.
Boxy has been known to do things.
Run that in the Blitz games all the time.
Take Kestrel here because CP Kestrel and Petal are kind of a skill matchup, and CP Kestrel with Lyra is pretty decent. However, Taka is open, so they might support Adagio, but that would be really interesting to see who's on the lane there. So I don't think Taka will be taken on TSM side.
What about Samuel for Cloud9? We saw that crush Petal several times.
Yeah, this could work, and Joseph plays Samuel, so I don't think he plays Kestrel. So I think you're right here. They might actually take the Samuel.
Would be a really smart pick here, just because, again, we saw in earlier matchups where
Samuel Jewel, they might just do the same comp that TSM pick because Jewel counters Petal. Samuel's good into Petal, so Samuel Jewel makes a lot of sense here.
How well does that work if Team Solomid go for the Flicker eventually, though? Like, does that slow down sufficiently the Jewel from getting onto the Petal, for example?
Yeah, well, Jewel can jump out, and Samuel will be the one that's most susceptible to the AoE slow. However, if he just drifting darts backwards and continues to has Eve and just hits them, he can survive a Flicker assault. So we'll see here, but I think that they're probably going to take Jewel and Samuel will be the best options here. Oh, Glaive. They decided to take Glaive, which is interesting because Petal is there. Why are you picking Glaive into Petal? This is really risky. They might do support Glaive and lane the Lyra because Lyra has AoE damage that can take out the pets, so potentially they might want to lane Lyra here. We'll see what they decide.
The issue I have with lane Lyra in this particular instance is it severely dampens her sustainability. The heal becomes incredibly weak when you have her build the crystal power because it scales off of health. And so with the Adagio on the other side, like, you need to be able to keep up with the healing.
I mean, maybe
they can do Celeste here. I mean, Celeste would be good because late game with Lyra and a weapon glaive, Celeste.
Through those munions.
Oh yeah, Celeste is gonna carry really hard. Finn. Okay, so they are gonna lane a Lyra as expected with a weapon Finn.
Weapon Glaive.
Weapon Glaive.
And we have seen Von C do Weapon Finn before. I don't think I really want to have that be the way this ends, though. I gotta be honest. Team Solomid, how are they gonna end things with their last pick here? What are they gonna lock in to deal with a Finn? I'm still fairly confident Flicker could work.
Oh,
but they're
Kestrel.
gonna go for Kestrel, actually.
the Kestrel is interesting to me here. Unless they're going, I mean, if you're going weapon Kestrel, I don't think it's as good into the Finn. Like the Crystal Kestrel, I think is better because Finn's gonna be that giant body in front, and it's gonna be eating up all your glimmer shots. And so the Crystal Kestrel, you at least gets the spray behind him. But with Petal and Adagio, it's incredibly unlikely that we're going to see a Crystal Kestrel.
And that being said, I mean, we talk about Finn being a target for breaking point stacks here. That could happen with Kestrel. We see that build semi-frequently when we do see weapon Kestrel. What do you think the win condition is for Team Solomon here?
One thing, the biggest thing is if Glaive gets solid afterburns onto Kestrel, Cloud9 is going to win every fight. But if TSM does a really good job of avoiding afterburn and then Joseph gets caught by Petal, he's going to be in big trouble. So it's really how good is Joseph going to carry with these afterburns.
And also from a damage perspective, we've got Lyra Glaive. Now, Lyra's damage can struggle, especially in certain locations on the map where you can easily move away from the sigil. So I'm curious to see where and when they fight and how much damage Joseph has to invest into personally to make these work.
Yeah, great point. And I think Old School played against T-Tiger's Kestrel, and he destroyed Tiger's Kestrel. So they might have a winning chance here. We'll see.
All right, well, you're talking about their chances. I want to know what you guys think the most likely outcome is here. Who do you think is going to take home game number 2?
I would like Cloud9 to come out on top here.
I'm going to stick with Team Solo Mid.
All right, well, our analysts both have different horses in this race. Let's see which one is going to cross the finish line for Week 4. If it is Team Solo Mid, we wrap things up now. Let's hand it on over to Jaws Nick Scoundrel.
There are no horses in this game, but there are some pretty interesting heroes coming out from both of these teams so far. TSM kind of walking into Cloud9 right now. Is that exactly the thing you want to do? As Joel of Joseph goes very aggressive on Von C, picks up the kill. FlashX almost kills I Love Joseph, but Cloud9 already on the aggression. Can they kill FlashX? Polite company to bring him forward. FlashX goes down to Gabe Vizzle. Cloud9, they're off to a much better start this game.
TSM trying their early aggression. C9 were ready for it. That is one of the problems with Petal, especially early on against the weapon power Glaive. You really do struggle because of that afterburn. And obviously you don't quite have the kite potential when you have that, don't have that frostburn on board. Pause comes out. Very early pause here, but TSM trumped in the early game. Good reactive play, good adaptation, you'd have to say, by C9 here. And again, that's one of the areas that you can exploit. Petal has the lowest base health at level 1 in the game. No, actually, no, that's a lie. Kestrel has the lowest base health at level 1 in the game. But in terms of scaling and end health, Petal has the lowest in the game. So both very squishy heroes here starting for TSM. And with the afterburn for I Love Joseph, you can really look to exploit that. And that's a good start, you'd say, for C9. I Love Joseph helps both Old School and Gavers will pick up a kill apiece. And they can start to put pressure on early on here on TSM.
Yeah, they can indeed. That's 2 more kills than they got last game. So that's, that's a +1 for Cloud9. Exactly. Improving is always a good thing in my books. Can TSM, though, come back for it? I'm pretty sure they can at least equalize it because they very methodical gameplay. But Von C is someone I want to touch on here really quickly. He's playing this Petal here into this composition. It's going to be fairly easy for him actually to get away from people like I Love Joseph and Gabe Vizzle. I want to know how that's actually going to play into it.
Just repeat. I kind of zoned out for a second, Sean.
That's all right. It's been a long day, man. It's been a long day.
Just ask me the question again, and then I will answer it.
How's Petal doing into the matchup with Cloud9?
That was really concise. Thanks, buddy.
Yeah.
I think Petal specifically in this particular matchup is okay. She is kind of weak to gap closing. So instantaneous gap closing is where Petal does struggle. And if Glaive can find a good positioning on his afterburn and continue to keep up the pressure against the Petal, then Petal will struggle. As long as the forced accords are getting blocked, then that's fine. But they also have the follow-up of the portal from the Lyra. So, there are a lot of ways to get straight on top of this Petal, a lot of ways to follow up from her trampoline as well. So, I mean, Petal does okay if she's able to avoid all of the gap closing techniques and then able to just, punish them once they've used them all, because then you can just chase them down with the Frostburn. But before that, if you're not able to escape all of that gap closing coming out from C9, Petal can struggle.
Yeah, I mean, there is so much gap closing. Realistically, I love Joseph with the afterburn, old school as well with the passage. It's going to be very, very hard for TSM to get away. But Beshchakane, he is on the laning Kestrel. Probably not going for the crystal build, as obviously Von C will be doing that. But I mean, it's a very interesting composition coming out from Cloud9 equally on the other side, because they've got two massive frontliners in I Love Joseph and Gabe Vizzle. So you can imagine old school is going to be quite safe. And Cloud9, they're just trying to take control of the jungle where they didn't have so much success last time.
Yeah, and kind of leaving Von C to his own devices, though. He's able to just pretty much happily farm his back. C9 not putting up the same amount of pressure that TSM did in that last game. And I think Von C will be fairly happy with this. He's kind of had a little bit of a reprieve from that early level 1, and now he's going to be working up towards that Frostburn ASAP. I think that's absolutely fine for Von C. He'll be very happy in this situation. And also FlashX and Beshchakane being given some time in lane to farm up too. Even Von C choosing to be a little bit aggressive here. We'll have to be a little bit careful, you'd have to say. But feels confident enough here to go against I Love Joseph.
Yeah, takes a lot of damage for it though. Doesn't even steal away the Treant, as the Munions are taking a little bit of a beating as well from the massive ice club that is I Love Joseph. And with that, Cloud9, they are going to return to the lane. Same with TSM. Not going to be doing it all too much, I can imagine. Old school, especially on this lane Lyra pick, something of my favourite, is going to pick up the alternating current very, very shortly, I can imagine. And it's going to be a fairly classic build, I would have thought, with the Broken Myth, as well as the Eve of Harvest, you might want to say.
Well, definitely the alternating current and obviously the Broken Myth there. I think the rest of it will come down to what they want to achieve. Shatterglass will help him burst Von C's minions if that sigil comes out a little bit more readily. Eve of Harvest, yeah, I mean, if he wants to play the sustain game, but you already have a lot of sustainers in Lyra's kit, so you might not necessarily need the Eve of Harvest, but the energy regeneration is very helpful. So yeah, there's a couple of options here. We'll have to see where he goes throughout the course of this game. Von C continuing to be aggressive here. TSM not deterred by that early game, and are going to try and take as much as they can from C9 in that forward camp jungle.
Yeah, they want to make sure they can punish Cloud9 where they can, but alternating current has been finished from old school, and the fountain as well for Gabe Vizzle. So they will be a nice little power spikes there. And that did go over to, I believe, Joseph. So he's actually going to steal a little bit of jungle away from Von C, but it's not going to deter Von C all too much. Going to farm up his backs, then probably return either to the lane or to his base. We'll have to wait and see. But other than that, I mean, TSM, they are up a game up right now, and arguably strongest team in NA right now. And Cloud9, they are putting up a hell of a fight in this early game at least. 1k gold lead in their back pockets, but I can imagine that's only just off the early kills.
Yeah, the early kills. Got a couple of CS advantages. You know, you got 10 for old school over Beshchakane. And I know Joseph's got a small lead over Von C. So all of that kind of adding up right now for C9. It's how easily they can capitalize on this, though. Jaws. When you're against a Petal, you kind of want to make sure you're putting pressure on her early, because as soon as she gets towards that later game where Munions start doing some real damage and you get the Frostburn to be able to kite, that's where you're going to struggle. But they've got lots of ways to take out Von C's Munions easily. The Quibble does a lot of damage. The splash damage from I Love Joseph on this glaive when he gets a critical strike, old school sigil. I mean, those Munions are going to have a tough time surviving in these fights, and if the Munions die, that means Petal's damage is reduced severely. So, almost totally. So yeah, I think a lot of ways to deal with these annoying little Petal Munions, and that's good for C9. They definitely drafted a comp that does well into this. I mean, look how quickly they go down to a Quibble there.
Yeah, all too fast, and they will end up spawning again, but yeah, like you said, damage is almost halved as soon as those Munions do disappear off the face of the fold. Von C is going to return to his own base, as yet again, Beshchakane is going to be just pushing this wave, just making sure he can pressure Cloud9. I mean, I'm quite surprised, actually, TSM haven't just retracted into their own jungle even a little bit more here, because Cloud9, they've got such a massive early game advantage, but TSM, they know how to play into these deficits, or do they? Because they've just walked into Gabe Vizzle, polite company. It's going to get blocked, actually, as FlashX does get the retreat off as well. That will be Cloud9 just forcing TSM back here, but Gabe Vizzle hasn't hit the level 6. FlashX going to walk in, going to face check this brush, not where they want to be whatsoever. Beshchakane gets instantly killed as FlashX is going to go fairly low as well. I Love Joseph is going to secure himself a kill. They're going to go towards the gold mine as well.
That was very unlike TSM for me, making that face check play. FlashX didn't have any flares. There was no way they could check it. They could have just rotated back up to lane. I think they were, at this point, likely to have to relinquish the gold mine anyway. Maybe they felt that they had to check, though. I mean, in my opinion, it was a mistake. Like, whenever you make a face check, I always think it's a mistake. But maybe there was a part of TSM where they said, well, maybe we have to check this, you know. He forced the chords the Munions, so at least he gets some work done with that ability. But yeah, maybe they felt they had to face check Jaws. Maybe there was like, or even they felt confident if FlashX walked in and Gift of Fire that they'd have that advantage to potentially win from range, but didn't work out for TSM. Luckily to only lose 1 kill.
Yeah, very, very lucky indeed. And if you can imagine it, Gay Vizzle being at level 6 at that point, it would have ended a little bit more disastrously, as there's no Crucible, but there are 2 blocks on the side of Best Chuck and Flash X, so not too much of an issue. They will be able to block that if it's incoming. Just Von C without one of those for the time being. He's actually going to pick up a very early infusion. It's going to sit in his inventory at the moment. Only 8 minutes into the game, so they really want to make sure they can actually put up much more of a fight than they have been already.
Well, 9 minutes tends to be the time where North American teams like to buy infusions and capitalize on them. Around the level 8 to 9 mark, generally feel that they get a lot of value out of it. A lot of big team fights are won in that area. You can capitalize with tier 1 turrets and gold mines quite readily. So they're going to be happy to just say, okay, infusion here is important for us. And Vonsi's one of the sort of the guys that actually plays with infusions and really values them as part of an early game team fight tool as well. So got level 8 now, so he'll have a little bit of effect. He might end up popping it fairly soon. Will they defend this tier 1 turret? No, they won't.
No forced accord though comes in from Gabe Vizzle. Flash X is caught up in the middle of it all. He's going to go really low. Joseph Jib jives and dodges in. 1 kill traded over backwards and forwards. TSM, Cloud9, they're trying to kill somebody. Old School is going to have to run away. Von C is going to chase him down. Other Munion's going to be able to kill him. I think they are very, very close. Von C finally picks up the kill, and Best Chuck is going to chase down Gabe Vizzle as well. So TSM, that fight did go in their favor. Finally, maybe. Come on, Best Chuck. You can do it. One more hit. Nah, there we go. Picks it up. So they do trade 3 kills up there for themselves. But they do lose a couple and La Turret as well.
There was a big gift of fire from Flash X that hit a lot of people, then combo with Von C's spontaneous combustion as well. It was a perfect fight for TSM to have to turn things around. Frostburn has been finished by Von C, so he's got control of the team fights now. So if he's not the target that's getting focused, suddenly those Munions are making life very difficult for both I Love Joseph and Old School to find correct positioning. This is a good time for TSM, and Von C obviously had that infusion as well, so a lot of damage coming out from him there. They just played that team fight really well, really did. And, I think C9 felt that they had a good opportunity. They had the big forced accord that came out. They felt that they could make something happen with it, but unfortunately, that kind of clustered them up, and clustering up against a Petal is not exactly where you want to be, Jaws.
No, definitely not. And with that, TSM will push this wave out. Cloud9 did look like they wanted to push it actually for the gold miner, but decided against it in the end, as they do send Old School to just kind of clear that one. And TSM and Cloud9 may be looking for a little something here. Flash X kind of caught again. Oh, Forced to Call gets dragged in. Burst Judgment's going to come down. It's not going to stun anybody. The damage is going to go through, but Flash X just ends up trading his life up there. Cloud9 are going to take this gold miner, and that Crucible was just an inch too late.
Yeah, it needs to be on point. When you're playing against a Finn, the number one thing that you need to be able to do is manage to hit your Crucibles against the Forced Accord. It kind of negates everything that Finn can do with that ability. If you're not blocking them, it's just a huge disadvantage for your team going into team fight situations and defending. So, yeah, I mean, Flash X will know. Like, there's no need to tell him any more than that. He needs to be hitting those Crucibles, and he'll probably be trying incredibly hard to make sure that that is happening throughout the course of this game. Wants to make sure that he's obviously really keying on to that very important item to be able to hit against the Finn.
Yeah, as soon as he hits him, that's going to be really it for Gabe Vizzle. If TSM manage to kite back away from the Finn after that, it's pretty much free game for them and free kills for them as well. But yeah, if he does hit them, it's game over for TSM, really.
Interesting you're seeing Gabe Vizzle go for a contraption here, third item, over something like the War Treads. I actually think War Treads might be better as a third item, just because, you know, that movement speed, very important against the Petal, very important against chasing down Kestrel. But I think maybe they value trying to spy Best Chuck NA out of his active camo more than anything else. I think that was... FlashX is getting itchy fingers here, dude. That was a super early Crucible, I guess, expecting the pull from Gabe Vizzle. That was a preemptive one, and Gabe Vizzle didn't pull the trigger. TSM lucky because Gabe Vizzle looked for a pull over the wall there.
Yeah, did grab a couple of Munions again, but yeah, very, very close to being bad for TSM. That was, yeah, maybe just popped it just in case. I mean, the cooldown's only on 20 seconds remaining, so, you know, it's not too big at this stage. But the problem is, yeah, if he does keep blowing them accidentally and Gabe Vizzle hasn't used the Forced Accord, it's going to be a bit of a problem for TSM.
Yeah, it really is.
Oh, TSM.
I mean, FlashX probably mind gaming himself now, you know, just needs to reset, come down, say, okay, really important that I just make sure I do exactly what I was doing, you know, with my Lance, you know, specifically being on point with my mechanics, making sure I'm using the Crucible when I absolutely need to. Gabe Vizzle seems to know that they are over the wall here. He might look for one of those big, thin, over-the-wall pulls, but C9 going for a flank, this could be dangerous for TSM.
It could be indeed. TSM have been spotted out, but they spot Old School. Passageways going to get followed through. Versus Judgment is only going to land on Gabe Vizzle. Takes minimal damage. Forced to call comes through. It's going to be blocked this time, though. But look at FlashX. His health bar just melting. Finally getting chunked back up. Old School is trying to trade up some of this damage. He finally ends up falling. Old School is going to be able to take up the kill. And Best Chuck NA is going to fall as well. Von C is on the retreat, but Joseph is going to find him. Von C did pick up Gabe Vizzle on the back of that, but Cloud9, they are going to chase him down, or at least clear the minion wave, as Von C is going to be the last member alive for TSM. Another fantastic team fight for Cloud9.
Yeah, it was good positioning for them. I like what Best Chuck tried to do there, but unfortunately, Bright Bulwark kind of stopped him in his tracks. And again, I love Joseph got the damage at this point in time to pressure Von C, who's only just got a little bit of armor behind him. Again, one of the major things that Petal struggles with is people that can gap close and people that can burst her. And right now, Von C doesn't really have many tools to deal with I love Joseph, who's just jumping at him and slamming down a lot of damage. Really struggling. Those Munions are going down really quickly as well, Jaws. They are, you know, basically struggling in these teamfight situations. So actually, the Petal damage at this point in time is feeling a little bit lackluster. Definitely, FlashX has become a major target who's got alternating current. We've got an alternating current on FlashX, everybody. He's going aggressive on this Adagio. Wants to be a damage threat in his own right. So trying to put, I guess, pressure on I Love Joseph, can put pressure on Old School if he gets that Gift of Fire down. This is something that you sometimes see Captain Adagios do, but I was not expecting it here for FlashX. Gone for the... He's even going further into the CP build. He's picked up a crystal bit as well, so one can only assume that that is going to go even further, plus this alternating current. This is going for a triple damage threat composition coming out from TSM.
Question is, will it work at this stage of the game? Sentry is going to go down again. Cloud9, they have got a big gold lead in their favor, 4,000 in their pockets. With infusions coming out from them as well. I mean, and the Kraken just coming on the board. I mean, realistically, is that a good thing that FlashX is going this route of triple damage? Because maybe his team needs an Atlas Pauldron just to kind of slow up Old School, and I'm just not sure how this can actually work out for them. I mean, they've got the damage to kind of back up any meaningful engage, but the engagements have all come from Cloud9.
Well, Old School doesn't... Yeah, maybe. I mean, Atlas Pauldron kind of okay against... Old School. You probably wouldn't consider it hugely, but I think that the major issue is that obviously Von C is having a little bit of problems with his damage output in this particular game because of how easy it is for these Munions to get taken down by C9. And what you do here, and actually FlashX has sold the Piercing Shard and going for some ally. I think he's thought better of going full damage here. But what this does mean is that it's easier for TSM to deal with I Love Joseph when he gets to that front line, because you can just smack Gift of Fire down and be super aggressive onto I Love Joseph, so that when he does find an afterburn, maybe you can deal with him first, and then you just got Gabe Vizzle and Old School to worry about.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense for sure, but I completely agree. Selling that Piercing Shard, probably the best thing to do. Forced Accord is going to get blocked again. Nice work from TSM. FlashX hasn't got that tricky fingers just yet. Has been using them very, very well. Crystal Sentry is going to go down. Versus Judgment is going to get channeled. FlashX has got a little bit of damage on his side, but not doing too much. Gabe Fizzle taking a lot in the front line, but Joseph goes in yet again. But Old School is going to have to be the target in this fight, but TSM just can't seem to find him whatsoever. That passageway being followed left, right, and center. Old School picks up 1 kill. TSM just kind of routed at this point. Von C just cannot stay alive in these fights at all. And FlashX, yet again, the last member alive, will end up falling. That will be an ace coming through for Cloud9, and the Kraken is going to get taken as well.
Best Chuck struggling to do any damage. He's being really heavily focused by Old School, stopping him from finding good positioning. TSM was split there. I thought for a second it was going well for them. The spontaneous combustion was landing onto grouped up targets. They were getting both healing and damage out in one foul, swift move. But unfortunately, there you can see that the Von C easily repositioned, wasn't able to block the afterburn properly. He then became a target, had to back out. Best Check NA tried to reposition right into the middle of the fight to find a kill, but couldn't do so. And again, the damage output and burst and the ability to deal with these Munions incredibly easily from C9 means that TSM's actual teamfight capabilities are starting to struggle. I'm not sure where TSM go from here. They've got to, you know, they can't really rely on Von C right now because a lot of his damage output is being hampered. There isn't that much protection coming through for Best Chuck. He's kind of having to kite by himself the entire time. And FlashX picking up that alternating current is good for him, but it's not a major damage output at this point in time. And they're going to have to just desperately defend against this Kraken if they want to try and keep their hopes alive in this second game.
Yeah, it does look like TSM are just going to be able to take that one out. Although Cloud9, they are advancing on TSM's base now. They are just going to get a little chunk damage down onto this turret. Light Company used as well. Does look like Cloud9 are going to go for this disengage. Forced to cord used. Von C gets pulled in. FlashX is going to get punted away as well by I Love Joseph. And Old School almost assassinating Von C. Follows the passageway through and gets it as well. Nice one shot, 1 kill. Isn't going to land. I Love Joseph is just going to be able to chunk that one up. Not a problem. That turret almost falling there, and Von C just getting caught on the wrong side of that forced accord.
Von C is so susceptible to that damage from Lyra as well because of the range. I Love Joseph provides the main distraction, and Old School can just land big, hitting auto attacks.
Forced accord into the double quibble as well. First Judgment is going to come down, but yet again, Best Chuck falls, and FlashX, last member alive. Cloud9, I think they've done it. That's going to be the ace. That's going to be the turret and the crystal. That will mean Cloud9 are going to take this the second game in this best of 3.
Wow, Cloud9 coming back in this finals. They found the remedy to deal with TSM, came from early aggression. Quibbles really dealing easily with Von C's Munions. They really put a stopper in this TSM petal, which has been so successful for Von C over the last few weeks. FlashX did not have a great game on the Adagio there. A couple of early mistakes with the Crucible meant that TSM were left reeling, having to play super defensively and kiting in the team fights. Best Chuck NA never really found the potential on this Kestrel, didn't get towards that 4 items that is so key for weapon power Kestrel. But give credit to C9 where credit is due. They played the game incredibly well. Every single member, especially Old School as well on this lane, CP Lyra was absolutely fantastic.
That he was, and that will leave 1 game left for these guys. Who will win it, TSM or Cloud9? We'll have to get more thoughts over on the analyst desk.
Oh, I tell you what won't win it. Face checking so many bushes. Man.
That was,
I mean, a rough start for Team Solo Mid. Let's be honest. It could not have began much worse.
I just don't understand, like, the first fight, how you don't flare that first brush. Every single team flares that bush. You're going to be their second, but they just walk right into it.
You know how you don't flare that bush? If you don't have a flare. They didn't have a flare, which I think...
Which, how do you not have a flare level 1 as a captain? I mean...
That was a strange decision.
And I said here, it's off the really good Glaive Afterburns, and how Cloud9 will beat TSM is just being able to outplay TSM at the micro game. And you can see Gabe does that a lot.
That quibble.
3-man quibbles, pulls, etc. And, you know, TSM excels when they win the big picture, the macro game, and Cloud9 just really executed their mechanics super well.
And I think it is important to frame it that way, right? Like, TSM... We've got to admit, you should have been flaring those bushes, but at the same time, capitalizing on them so well. I mean, if I were, for example, trying to land that quibble, I would have gone for one person, because they were literally like triangular at the very outer edges of that quibble. But he landed it on all 3.
Yeah, very great capitalizations and excellent mechanics from Cloud9, but also just big. I think it's most frustrating because we're just like, like Team Solo Mid, FlashX, you know better than to do that. They literally, in the first one, like your opponents are going to be at that bush first. In the second part of that clip, like you just saw them moments ago in and around that bush. They backed off and then just walked right back into it as if they were expecting Cloud9 to just decide, oh, no, we're just going to walk away. Like, it was just really bizarre movements.
All right, let's have a look at a replay from a little bit later on, though. We can see some more fair fighting where they actually had a chance, didn't get jumped on. Already, the fight splits out a ton, though.
Yeah, Old School here does a really good job. He dodges Chuck, goes through the portal, heals up. The fountain timing is so great from both sides of the team, actually. And Chuck gets eliminated here, and Old School heals himself and just autos Von C. Von C has no crystal defense, so Old School, hitting Von C is going to hit like a truck. And Gabe just continues to set up plays for his carries to deliver. So very, very good job there by them.
I really liked Old School's Lyra, actually, this game, because we were talking about it right before the game. I had mentioned that I'm wondering where they're going to fight. How are they going to fight? What are they going to do with the Imperial Sigil in these exchanges? One thing that they did beautifully was kind of use that Finn as an anchor point. They played all on either side of him. They were jumping back and forth with the portal. They were never in the same spot, and that was giving Old School the ability to position it wherever he needed to be.
Yeah.
There's one thing I did really like from FlashX. It didn't end up panning out, quite obviously, but he built a broken myth for himself on the Adagio
And
as the captain,
current, right?
and alternating current. Like,
he was a little squishy. They focused and killed him really quickly. So I see the next draft here. I think that TSM may take away the Finn on the second phase of the ban cycle here. So typical ban drafts here, Adagio and Lyra taken off. If TSM laned the Adagio, that would have been a little different last game. So Lance is a really good pick here. He works in a lot of situations.
Do Cloud9 go for the Koshka at some point here? That's a real question after Lance's performance against her
That's
today.
true, because if they give TSM Koshka, that's
I mean,
Lance.
we've seen Team Solo Mid first pick the Koshka so many times that with it being open here, like during that 19-0 run that she had, with it being open and them not picking it, I think that means Koshka is out of the meta.
They can
Gone.
take Finn here.
They're sending a
No
message.
more.
Yeah, they can take Finn here and ban Koshka, because Finn is actually good into Lance. So let's see if Cloud9 is going to decide to do that here.
And Finn would be relatively good against a Koshka if Cloud9 wants to leave it open in bans and Team Solo Mid pick it later on with the Lance.
Yeah.
All right, well, Cloud9, they're using a bit of their bonus time on this first pick. Potentially not expecting Lance first pick. Maybe they were expecting Koshka, something they probably would have, at least before today, prepared for. Glaive, okay.
Oh, wow. They want to secure that pick for Joseph because his Glaive is very, very strong. And of course, they're going
It
to
could
ban
also be Gabe. Gabe has played quite a bit of
support
Glaive
Glaive
as well, so
right.
leaves their options open.
Do you think Cloud9 might take Captain Glaive and then pick up a Petal or something like that?
Potentially. They're probably going to... TSM's probably going to ban Fortress here because I don't think they want to give Cloud9 the Fortress Glaive combination there. It's just really, really strong into any squishies. Oh, they've been decided to ban Ringo. Okay.
So why would you ban Ringo here over that Fortress?
Because Ringo Glaive is a very strong combination. Because if you pick Ringo, you'll have Flicker, Fortress open still, and those combinations work really well. However, there's also Vox, so let's see what Cloud9 decides. They don't have to worry about Fortress here because Fortress doesn't make sense with land, so TSM won't pick Fortress. Unless they play CP Fortress though, so that could be risky. So let's see what Cloud9 decides here.
Yeah, the Glaive Ringo is so strong because of the fact that you have Glaive just set up kills for Ringo. They're almost guaranteed kills for like the first 5 minutes of the game, and you can get the Ringo snowballed far out of control that early on. But
I like the Vox. I mean, you've already locked out of the picture the Adagio, the Ringo. We've seen a lot of Lyra in lanes, so many of the big laners unavailable for Team Solo Mid here.
And so, well, now Team Solo Mid still have plenty of options available. Who knows if they're going to put the Lance on. I would assume Lance is going to go to Flash here. It's not something that Von C plays terribly frequently.
We saw Lane Lance earlier today.
Yeah, that's true. They might do Petal here. However, they can run a CP Vox into it. But Petal Jewel may look like something that TSM might be considering. I think Jewel looks pretty decent in this. Or Gwen. Gwen with Lance is pretty good as well. Baron into Vox is very strong, so there's a lot of options TSM has here.
Baron into Glaive is an interesting pickup too, because sure, early game it's a real challenge given how Glaive can gank so effectively, but late game after you overdrive your B around level 8 potentially, it becomes way harder for you to get locked down. Probably one of the hardest carries for Glaive to actually get on top of.
Absolutely.
Well, Team Solo Mid's going to use a fair bit of their bonus time here thinking about this pick.
I like that they're taking it slow and steady here, but
Maybe they'll run
Curious.
jungle Cath with a hyper carry or something.
I mean, if they want to give the game to Cloud9, I guess, sure.
It works. It's just you need to hyper feed the one carry.
I
that you
will
have.
not.
but what carry is left that you want to hyper feed?
Baron is
Baron?
a good option.
Okay.
If you want Baron, you should take Arden with Lance, but they're gonna opt for the Kestrel here.
Now, is this Kestrel going to the lane or the jungle, do you think?
Probably Weapon Kestrel because of she's really good into Glaive, trying to punt her in there. She can active camo immediately. CP Kestrel also works to outpoke the Vox, so this is something that they can flex. Maybe they want to go with Jewel with Lance Kestrel. Might be pretty strong here.
I think Jewel would actually work really well for them with the composition that they have. Crystal Kestrel coming out of the jungle for Von C. We know Von C's Kestrel has always been top-notch, so...
Samuel, okay.
All right, so they're going to have a lot of poke damage here, a lot of disengage with that Lance and the ability to kite backwards. Cloud9, maybe they go for some more siege breaking. You've already got the Glaive. He can punch through those defenses potentially.
Yeah, they need someone that can go in hard. So Taka might be a good option here with support Glaive, or CP the Glaive and do a weapon Vox with an Arden here. That will be a good option. Finn is also strong because Finn can body block all of the Samuel, Malice, and Verdict,
back
etc.
when Samuel was getting played a ton, it was actually Finn. It turned out to be like one of the big counters to him. You just
stack shield.
Yep, just buy. I mean, we saw it with like Fountain, then an Aegis, and then another piece of shield just to block out all that damage. So Finn could work really well here. Catherine could work as well.
Given Joseph's hero pool, I think they're going to probably go with the jungle Glaive, and then they're going to pick a support like Arden or Finn here would be pretty good.
Could you not
Or Cat.
support
They might even go
Catherine?
Cat.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, because
Cat
Gabe
makes sense because
Vizzle...
Gabe can carry on Cat, and it's into a
Yeah.
Kestrel and a Samuel. Oh,
Fortress.
Fortress.
Okay. I mean, this can certainly work really nicely. They've got a great dive composition. I feel like the win conditions on which I'm going to ask you about are fairly clear on Cloud9.
Yeah, get the Fortress speed perk, get Glaive in there after burn Samuel or Kestrel into Vox, and it's going to be GG there. However, Lance, how TSM needs to win this is they need to initiate Fortress. If Fortress initiates every time, it's going to put TSM on the back foot, and they're going to play reactive versus proactive.
Yeah, and exactly, right? They need to be the aggressors. A lot of the times you fall into this trap when you pick up a Samuel where you're constantly disengaging. Same thing with Kestrel. We saw that with Tricky before. So really, I agree with you. Team Solo Mid, they got to be the aggressors.
And one of the other parts of that aggression is the Fortress has to be played slightly differently than what we normally see. A lot of times we see Fortress, like, they'll sit in a bush, use the ultimate, and then charge onto an opponent with those wolves. I feel like in this situation, you need to be in the fight already before Attack of the Pack comes out. Otherwise, Drifting Dark just comes backwards, all the wolves get killed before they can have any sort of impact, and the fight gets turned around.
All right, so guys, this has been a pretty intense series so far. Both teams have picked up a win. We've only got one game left. Who do you think can actually take this one home?
If TSM's macro strategy outbeats Cloud9's micro strategy, TSM's going to take it.
It's tough for me to say because I'm just not a huge fan of Samuel. But
Even after seeing Tyrus earlier?
that was against a pedal. Like that, if it was able to essentially negate an entire hero pick. So that's a little different. But in general composition, I'm not a huge fan of it. But I do think there are spots for it here. Team Solo Mid.
All right, let's see who's going to take this one home. This is the final game of the finals of our first split. Let's hand it on over to Josnick Scoundrel.
It's a big game for both of these guys. Final one. Who will take home that coveted, first place prize? TSM or Cloud9? Well, Cloud9 can't be first. So TSM, are they going to win? We'll have to wait and find out. Or can Cloud9 topple the giants of North America?
Yeah, a super long-range game plan from TSM, though. You want to be playing from the absolute maximum distance, putting pressure on Fortress and Glaive. Again, it's going to be a little bit more difficult because when you play against the Fortress, one of the best ways to play into him is playing a team that can be super aggressive against the Fortress. And if you force Fortress on the back foot, you know how difficult it is for Fortress to deal with that. Not appealing captain. very much designed to aid his team going in. And when you combat that with the glaive, kind of have someone that can follow you into the into the very depths of hell. And you can see Gabe is wearing the skin that is appropriate for that statement.
Ooh, Old School does get rooted. He's going to have to back off here. Von C chasing up a lot of damage. This could be first blood for TSM. Aren't just going to be able to get the damage down. I love Joseph was looking for something a little there, but TSM still firmly on the aggression.
Great body blocking from Gabe there, just taking those malice and verdicts, bodyguarding Old School so that he could escape in that situation. But TSM going to try and shove the wave here. Don't know how much Old School will lose, if anything at all, to be honest. He should get back in time, but they definitely tried to put pressure on by shoving that wave early. Good idea by TSM early on there, but again, aggression comes out from these guys super quickly. Von C actually realizing that Old School, or rather, sorry, I Love Joseph could put pressure on his jungle, so he has gone for a early light armor just to make sure he can try and defend as much against that afterburn that can put real spanners in the works for TSM. He's now going to be maybe contesting for this Elder Treant in mid. A lot of scenes.
Take them in their place. I'm just kind of hanging around this mustache bush. Oh, Gabe Bizzle gets rooted and Githium all at the same time. Cloud9 will they go down for first blood. They end up going down to Von C's hands. Nice CC chain from Flash X there. Something we've known him for.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Him and Gabe Bizzle have had excellent performances on Lance in this week of the VGA, especially today as well. I Love Joseph going in here, put pressure.
Oh, Best Chuck and A does get afterburn. Old School tried to follow up with a little bit of damage. Doesn't really have the weapon power just yet there for the kill. But Best Chuck and A will survive that one, not an issue. Thing is, I think I Love Joseph, he needs to make these proactive plays.
Yeah, no, I Love Joseph definitely, especially alongside with Gabe Bizzle, they want to be aggressive here. They want to be able to push the advantage that they have. They've got a great early game jungler. They've got great ganking potential. The single target damage is very high. It's kind of what you want here from C9. My issue is that when the Vox comes out, they've only got the glaive to be able to, I guess, kite for the Vox, which can be an issue because in the late game, Vox definitely wants to have that breaking point double turrets monocle build, which you'll want to stack up, and doesn't really happen easily for C9 when you haven't really got a great peeling composition. But again, if they have managed to get the advantage and can be aggressive, Vox can just stack up as he is chasing down the enemy team. That's a great position to be in as well.
Yeah, it really is. And I can imagine he's going towards the breaking point with probably the Sorrow Blade being the first of the two items. There's quite a common build we're seeing thus far in NA. And Flash X just getting, a little bit of pressure down in the top side, but Best Chuck and you can't push that far forward. This is the second time we've seen him on this Kestrel pick here. Didn't really work out last game, but we'll see if he can make it work thus far.
Doesn't look like he's going towards the Sorrow Blade build here, by the way, Jaws. Which would be in accordance with I think, the way the composition wants to work. Gives Vox an earlier spike. The problem with the Breaking Point Double Turrets Monocle build is you kind of need Breaking Point Double Turrets Monocle. Whoa, okay, second.
Okay, he's all good.
Yeah, he's all good. The problem with the Breaking Point Double Turrets Monocle build is you need that build specifically. You need those 3 items before you actually really start to get the maximum effectiveness out of it. With the Sorrow Blade build, once you get Sorrow Blade, that's a pretty decent item spike in itself. You get a pretty huge damage boost from that. So that kind of goes in accordance with what we're seeing here from C9. Obviously, it's not Weapon Power Glaive. I did say Weapon Power Glaive because I saw the Weapon Blades, but I didn't actually think about what I was saying. And it's going to be that cooldown reduction Glaive, which obviously is going to be the Storm Crown and the Aftershock. Very, very good against the likes of Samuel and against the likes of Kestrel, because that Afterburn will be on such a short cooldown that you'll be able to just consistently apply pressure with your afterburns, consistently look to reposition them as they are kiting. That could be a real factor, especially much better at peeling as well for the Vox. If you're able to consistently afterburn for Vox and knock a threat away from him, makes it very easy for him to stack up if he does get a breaking point into his build, which he has, actually. Hasn't gone for the Sorrow Blade. Gone for the breaking point instead. Might actually see the double Tyrant's Monocle build here. I got baited by the 6 sins, although I shouldn't have done, because some Voxes do actually build 6 sins and then later build that into a Tyrant's Monocle, just for the earlier weapon damage output. So I got a little bit baited there, but it is going to be the classic Vox build coming through.
Yeah, a little bit debated, but you're all good. Joseph has he's picked up a Storm Crown, so he's going to be farming up a Storm. And we can see Von C. Von C did have a level lead ever so slightly there as well. Hasn't actually picked up a tier 3, although tell a lie, just picked up his Frostburn as well as Best Chuck NA. He's going to pick up his Sorrow Blade. So nice little power spikes coming through for both teams at this current time. 6 minutes 45 seconds is on the clock right now with a kill in TSM's favor. Not really much happening at this moment. I mean, we've seen TSM time and time again methodically close games out, but they haven't got the early lead that they normally use to do that with.
No, I mean, obviously, it's been a very close series. Both teams, you did say, going toe-to-toe here. You definitely feel like C9 have matched TSM. I take back the statement that I said in the first game where I felt like TSM were unmatched. And, you know, I'm going to stand by the fact that they dominated C9 in the first game, because they did. That was a dominant performance. But C9 came back in the second game. They played incredibly well, found some of TSM's weaknesses and really exploited them. And I think these two teams are very evenly matched here. Despite TSM having an excellent first win, C9 leveling up the series shows that they are so close right now. On this current weekend of the VG8, both teams playing to their absolute maximum. And remember, you know, you'll really want to go into this split with the maximum amount of points possible. You want to be able to skip that first day of the live championships, have a rest, see how the other teams play. It's really important to squeeze out every point that you can, as well as having the prestige of winning the last VG8 weekend of the spring split. So obviously both teams going to be really battling hard for this win.
I mean, history would tell that TSM are going to be the winners, but Cloud9 really putting up a fight in this best of 3. Not as quite as a dominant game as TSM had in game number 1, but that they executed their comp absolutely stupendously in game number 2, and I want to see if they can do that again here. And I really do like this Fortress pick just to try and corral Best Chuck NA and Von C into just, well, letting Old School at least just deal a lot of that damage and upfront damage as well, because that double Tyrant's Monocle with the Breaking Point build, when it stacks up, it really just does so much work.
I don't think there's that much of an issue for TSM not having an early lead here, though, because Weapon Power Kestrel, once she gets to 3 or 4 items, becomes very strong as well. Kind of can match Vox. You got a range advantage over him. The Glimmer shots really start to hurt when you get the Critical Strike built up as well, so don't think there's too much of an issue for TSM not being completely dominant here, but both teams, I think, function fairly well in the late game too, so this is going to be a very mechanically intensive series. Ooh, Gabe Fizzle just escaping the Githian wall there.
Yeah, so close. And Flash X, we've seen him do it already. He's gone for that really predictive impale, and only just working out this time. I love Joseph is off to the sidelines here, so Cloud9 are reconvening up in this lane. TSM looking to try and do something here, putting a lot of pressure down on this turret, and that's the name of the game right now. Just pressure out your opponent, be able to just chunk that turret down bit by bit, because like you mentioned earlier today, Samuel just so good at doing just that.
Yeah, Samuel very good at pressuring early on. Looks like TSM. Oh, Oblivion.
Oh, wow. That was a very nicely timed reflex block there from Old School. Oblivion and Impale just going wide.
Yeah, very close. And now C9 looking for the counter engage. Flash X
triple Githian wall. Von C's on the wrong side of this fight completely. Old School's going to be able to chase him off here, but the Maleficent Verdict is going to heal him up. I love Joseph is the one to keep your eye on as he does force one out the fight, and Best Chuck NA is going to fall as well. Von C was completely displaced in that fight, and Cloud9 really brung it to TSM there. They are going to finally take out Von C in the end. Does block another afterburn, but ends up falling. And Flash X, only member left alive for TSM.
TSM felt super disconnected in that fight. No one really on the same page. Von C made the exit through the mustache brush. It was the correct decision to go that way, but didn't quite rejoin the fight. Flash X left stranded in no man's land, and unfortunately Best Chuck NA was a little bit too far out the way to be able to have an impact. Yeah, he felt like damage was super disconnected there. No one really on the same page, because if they'd collapsed and tried to put pressure on Old School immediately, they might have actually found an attempt to win that fight. But I've got to say, C9 executed incredibly well, and you're starting to see this cooldown reduction CP Glaive coming into its own versus a double Kite composition who kind of rely on their ability to outpace a melee threat. When you've got a cooldown reduction CP Glaive, it is very difficult to outpace him. Gets afterburn off cooldown so quickly that he's constantly keeping up with you as you're trying to kite backwards. So I definitely think this pick is good for I Love Joseph. He's executing it very well.
Yeah, he got 2 massive ones off in that fight, and the one big one is just to knock Von C out of the rest of TSM and just making sure he was isolated the entirety, and then they just cleaned up the fight, and it was very well executed. Their comp is definitely working out so far. Okay, Vizzle trying to get a little bit of aggression here, but I Love Joseph yet again spotting these. Attack of the back is going to get popped as well. Vonzi's going to get jumped on once more. Fountain's going to keep him alive for now, but Vonzi yet again, he's afterburning in. Vonzi doesn't end up falling, only just there, ends up going down, and that will be FlashX falling as well as Best Chuck and Cloud9 pick up the ace with such a decisive team fight.
Absolutely monstrous from I Love Joseph, consistently throwing Von C and Best Chuck into the gauntlet. And I don't mean Arden's gauntlet, I mean the literal gauntlet of damage that C9 have right now. And actually, Von C, he really needs that Eve of Harvest to be able to sustain. You think a couple of Malice and Verdicts, he might be able to find himself in a more defensive position, but right now, I Love Joseph, very low cooldown on the afterburn, consistently able to reposition Von C, consistently putting him in the harm's way of Old School, and no one is threatening Old School because TSM are so preoccupied with trying to kite against this glaive, trying to keep themselves safe as a unit, that they actually have no time to deal with Old School. And unless FlashX can actually hit Old School with an Impale, I don't know if there is any way, pending a really audacious Best Chuck NA active camo into the back line, I don't know if there is any way for them to touch Old School in these team fights because of how much of a threat Gabe Vizzle and I Love Joseph are being. This is how you play Fortress Glaive, ladies and gentlemen. You be super aggressive, you be super forward facing, you ask the questions, and TSM right now don't have the answers.
No, they do not, and I gotta say, I think it's down to this cooldown as well. Just the amount of afterburns he's getting off in these fights, they can be that aggressive. He's not afterburning in, having to wait like 10 to 14 seconds. He's getting afterburn after afterburn, 2, 3, sometimes 3 in fights. Like, that's how ridiculous this cooldown build actually is. TSM looking a bit lost right now. They're 5k in a deficit in terms of gold. And their Crystal Century not been touched just yet, but Cloud9, they're pushing ever greater into TSM's jungle.
Yeah, they can capitalize by just controlling this neutral gold mine as well. Again, you can see they've got that first turret in the game. They can start to put pressure, clear vision, take Crystal Sentry. I don't know, TSM, they classically, last year, we'd always say TSM is so good at coming back. In fact, I think Jackson always used to call it the TSM special. Whenever a team came back from a huge deficit and found a win, they'd always say TSM special, TSM special. Well, we haven't really seen TSM have to do that for the last sort of 5 months. TSM have always been the team that have been commanding and in the lead. And very rarely have we seen TSM have to fight against a massive deficit and find their way back into the game. They're going to have to do the old school, and I don't mean a pun because Old School's in the game, the literal Old School TSM special. They're going to have to find a way back from a deficit to win out this series and win the week in VG8. But Cloud9 right now, they are hungry for this week's win. They played a game in the first game which wasn't great. They really got punished and pressured by TSM, but from game 2 onwards, they have looked a different beast, and they're looking very good.
They have indeed. FlashX tried to find Old School there. Old School took a lot of damage from that Crystal Sentry, but the Impale, the Githium Wall, they just did not connect, so no follow-up from TSM was found for a Ford, and that will mean Cloud9 are going to secure the Crystal Sentry, and they are going to head towards the lane as well. Monocle has been finished now for Best Chuck, so he's going to really start to hurt Sorrow Blade, Breaking Point, and the Monocle. The problem is, Old School's reached that point already. Double Monocle with the Breaking Point. He's got Aegis as well. They're going to start up the Kraken. Cloud9, I think it's Scoundrel. TSM are not going to finish first this week.
I mean, it's definitely a threat. You do have to keep an eye on Best Chuck NA. If he gets 4 items on this Weapon Power Kestrel, he will be a damage threat in his own right. And again, like I said, there is comeback mechanics for TSM. We have seen them do it in the past. Just not so recently, that's the issue. It's been a very long time since we've had to see TSM claw back a victory. But again, at this point, they are now 6k gold down. it is looking glum for them. They do have going against a composition where it's very difficult for them to actually kite. Realistically, you think that FlashX has to be getting Githian walls on afterburns to actually give TSM a safe position to teamfight with, but that's very difficult to do. Super difficult to do. I love Joseph and Gabe Vizzle now. They are hunting for their prey of TSM, in which the trophy is first place of the VG8. Here we go.
Well, the trophy was best. Chakane does manage to get out, in fact. Attack of the Pup did get popped as well. That turret is going to fall. That Kraken doing a lot of work in the lane. TSM, they need to be able to take this out ASAP. Old School's going to do a lot of damage to those turrets. Nice reposition there from I Love Joseph. They're just going to let the Kraken take 2 of these turrets without too much of a problem. Cloud9 are going to back off. Definitely worth in their book because they are going to get the Crystal Sentry as well. And that will be it being eliminated off the map. So that will mean Cloud9 have now a dominant and leading position coming against TSM.
Yeah, absolutely. C9 in a completely dominant position. Have looked so good over these last 2 games. I criticized them in the first game. I think TSM had all of their cards. They showed all the trumps, but at this point now, C9, they've played so good from game 2 onwards, and this game has been a pure masterclass of countering what TSM have brought to the table. I Love Joseph has been fantastic on this glaive. Old School obviously been able to just completely free stack in these team fights, almost untouched because TSM have no way of getting to him on the backline. TSM have no way of actually posing a significant threat to a backline Vox. It's been absolute pleasure to watch for Cloud9. In fact, everything from Cloud9 today has been good. We praised Gabe Vizzle so much in his first series because of his play on Lance, and rightly so. The guy played like a monster. And now C9 potentially going to beat the best team in North America and take that final spot as the winners of the VG8.
They might just do that, and I Love Joseph has found his prey yet again. That fountain's going to keep everybody alive, but the problem is they're all split up. Oblivion comes down. It's not going to matter, though, because Old School cleaning up this fight, cleaning up house, picks up the ace. 2 kills for Old School and 1 kill for Gabe Vizzle. I think they might have done it. Cloud9, 18 minutes, and that will be a long death time and a long time to wait to try and defend their base. Cloud9, they will take first place in week number 4, taking down the dominant TSM.
Cloud9, take your place at the top of the VG8 in North America. You deserve that podium position. Every single one of you have played an excellent set of series across the day, found the way to take TSM down, had 2 super games coming off the back of a very difficult defeat in the first game of this series, and they will very gladly sit atop the scoreboard and this week. They're not completely on top in terms of points though, Jaws. TSM still retain that position from their consistent performances across the weeks, but this is kind of the icing for C9. They find that win, get some much needed points going into next split, and honestly, I'm really looking forward to seeing these guys play next time round when we see them on the field.
Yeah, most definitely. But you did mention there, TSM, they have retained their first place seed, and they did look really dominant coming into this one, but Cloud9, they did take the series, and that's going to be a massive morale boost for them. But we're going to jump straight over to the analyst desk one last time as me and Scoundrel bid you guys adieu.
Man, incredible final series to round
Really
out the
impressive.
first split. Both teams battling strongly, but Cloud9 coming out on top. I believe, Bacon, you were saying in both regions, 3 teams won the...